was very cute, but there was something with animals and counting and language. It was kind of everything. And I will answer both of you at the same time. That's a good question. If I would get a kid myself, I wouldn't, push that kid towards the same educational system. That would make me, I think, very unhappy in the kid as well. We force them to learn in a class 8 hours a day with 30 people at the same place through books. Now 45 kids out of the 90 in total in school who stayed for my workshop after school, 2 hours, voluntary. That you are not in class 5, but you are maybe in class 5 or grade 5 for Bulgarian, but you're in grade 3 for English, but that you are in grade 7 for math.
Great to have you here, Niels.
Yeah, thank you so much, Angel. I'm very happy to be here as well.
Thank you for joining our podcast. We are already broadcasting abroad from Nepal to Netherlands.
Yeah, exactly. So, but back in Netherlands, indeed.
Maybe we can begin with what are you doing in Nepal?
Yeah, so I was in Nepal last December till January, and what I did was a couple of things. I volunteered in a primary and a secondary school in rural areas of Nepal. It's a beautiful project there. They also have a hostel for kids, which is for kids that might still have parents, but the parents are often living too far away or too poor to take care of their kids. And I also gave a lot of educational leadership courses to coordinators and the leaders of universities, colleges, primary schools, secondary schools. And I did a lot of educational leadership trainings and motivational trainings for teachers there.
You work with teachers and with children?
Correctly. Yes, I work and also with the leaders of the school itself. So like the leader of the university, I also gave training for.
What are the results you gained?
The results I gained so far is it's a workshop of 3 hours, like for 40 teachers. So I think mainly it's the start of a thought process. Asking them questions where they can truly think about and how they can change their own way of how they lecture to the needs of their students. Nepal is a third world country still. What you see there is that they often don't understand that people learn also for their own pleasure. And there's a little bit more force. So what you also still have with kids is that kids often in governance schools still get hit if they don't do their best, which is very sad. So I try to teach them like, hey, people like to learn from when they're born. People are curious, so try to tap into that innate ability instead of slapping kids until they do something.
But they still do it.
And after that, against you do it, yes, you make the kids do what they have to. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So, did you manage to join any regular classes with the kids or teach regular classes with the kids, like 45-minute classes, like the ones that they usually have?
Yes, I did. I joined some math classes. It was for 7th and 8th grades, and I joined. I forgot the name of the class, but it was for 3rd grade. It was very cute. But there was something with animals and counting and language. It was kind of everything. So that I did, yes.
That's nice. And how, when you joined these classes, were you the primary teacher or you were just like a helper of the primary teacher?
No, there I was the helper because I was very much interested in how they did their classes. Because that school, the Maya Universe Academy, had the best results of the whole district, which is incredible because there are kids from very poor families. So I was so curious of how they did it. And the secret was actually kind of a simple secret, but a very beautiful one.
So what is it? Of course.
Pum, 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 pum. Now the secret was a lot of personal attention. The teacher in front of the class was super passionate about the kids itself. I don't think any of them started as being a teacher, like a true-born teacher, but they all had so much passion for the kids themselves, which made them passionate about also the subject and to help to teach the kids more. They know the kids, they know the parents of the kids, they know where they come from, they know what they need. And this kind of personalized education, something we want to work towards as well in the Western world, that's what you see there in place already. That's what really works. We want to do it in the Western world, I think, with a lot of technology. I think that's beautiful. But what I saw there was a lot of personal attention for every kid.
How big was the class?
Exactly. That's my question.
I know.
Yeah,
we went together.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will answer both of you at the same time. That's a good question. The classes were from 12 to, I think, maximum of 20 kids. So it were smaller classes if you compare it to, at least in Holland, where you have class of 30 kids. Yeah, so it's a big difference. It's actually a big difference. Another difference is that there's kind of a battle between government schools and this is a private school, but it's a free private school. It's kind of an interesting concept, but not for important now. But they go through the families, they talk with the families and try to get the kids to the Maya Universe Academy because they know it's better for them. So already there, the teacher sees the family, talks with the family, the head of the school does that. And if you compare that to the situation around the world, or at least for me in Holland, there's no teacher who would come to my home to talk like, hey, do you want to go to Herman Wesseling College? That's where I went because, it's the best school and we'll help you there. And there's no interaction already from that. It's not there, that piece of love, so to say. You missed that.
Can you please describe how did you see the workflow in a class? What did the teacher do with this passion, which you mentioned? Because would be helpful for other teacher. Something that impressed you.
Yeah, something that impressed me from one teacher was how he could do storytelling. He was a great storyteller. He had a great class for that as well. I had it was history, I think, for 6th grade, and he could tell everything so vividly about how things happened in the past and how we can use that knowledge for right now. And we also had discussions about more sketchy subjects, maybe for some cultures, about different types of sexuality, about your development there. And it was super open. It was such a safe space. But mainly what impressed me most, I think, is how he could talk about it and he could pull you into the story. That was very beautiful. So that impressed me very much. Another thing that impressed me was from another teacher, also a friend of mine, Bas. He tried to use gamification as well in his class.
That's interesting.
Definitely.
Can you please be more specific about this?
Definitely, yeah. Gamification is a subject I also very passionate about. It's a very broad subject, and I try to see gamification is bigger than just points, badges, and a leadership board and competition. But how he used it is very nicely. He did a competition, but he used it in a way that there was an overall mark that was needed to be gained for the whole class, an overall average. And if that was met, then everyone would go as a trip to Pokhara, which is a super cool city somewhere. So that meant that there was a battle in between some groups, but all the groups needed to work together to get the overall average grade high enough as well. And that is exactly what you need with competition. So not just against, but together.
That's very nice, yeah.
Yeah, so that was super good. And again, also the passion for the kids itself. What you gotta understand is that these teachers there, they live with the kids. They actually live at the school. They have their homes there. They start with the kids. They do karate class in the morning at 6:30. After that, another hour of something else. Then homework. Then they have food. Then some time for themselves. Then classes start, and afterwards there's maybe sports again. Time for homework. The kids help with cooking and everything. And at night, at some point they go to sleep. But everywhere in this time, the teachers are there as well. So there forms such a special bond between the teachers and the kids. It's incredible.
You said that the teachers were going around and telling parents about the school and everything. So, was there any that you are aware of course? Was there any issues with this, or parents that doesn't want to listen to it even, or doesn't get interested in this, or
Yeah, most
how it was?
definitely. Yeah, yeah. So there's quite a battle still with the government schools, and they were spreading lies about the academy. Even if you wouldn't go to the government school, then your kid will be blocked from some privileges, like really nasty stuff. So some parents got scared of that. But as I understood, most of the time, the founder of the schools, they then go to the family, they talk openly about it, and they still can get the kids to the Maya school. But yeah, sometimes the government school wins, and then the kid goes there, and the kid often does worse, and ends up worse. Yeah, yeah. There's issues with that.
Yeah, going back to you as a person that is involved into the education as a whole, not only in Netherlands but also in Nepal, and talking currently with people in Bulgaria about it. What makes you do this every day? Why education for you is the go-to subject?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's an easy question, but a difficult answer, I think. It's something I'm just born with, I believe. It's something I go back to. If I don't know what I want to do, or you feel lost on your path, it's always education that I go back to. It's learning new things and teaching that to other people what makes me most happy. So that's for me an activity I always like doing. So that revolves around education and learning. Other thing is that I felt that the educational system, at least in Holland, was not so good for me personally due to the big classes that you had, not so much personalized attention. It was not so. It was either too boring or it was too challenging and very standard. So there, I also feel that if I would get a kid myself, I wouldn't push that kid towards the same educational system. That would make me, I think, very unhappy in the kid as well.
Anyways, I'd like to ask you. So you said that you were impressed by the passion in the Nepali teachers, but what impressed you in the teachers in Netherlands? I believe that at least there is something.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it really depends. Which level are we talking about? Primary, secondary?
You choose.
Yeah. So I haven't. Honestly, I don't think I've spoken to like so many different kind of teachers, and it really depends on the person. If I admire something, yeah, what I do admire about the teachers, I think in Holland in general, is they are able to work in this system, that they are able to work with 30 kids at the same time, that they are able to get their authority and don't get burned out, that they get a good bond still with the kids, but also enough distance. One of my best friends is a teacher, and he does that job every day, and that's incredible. And he does an incredible job, and I'm super proud of him. I wouldn't be able to do the same in his position. That's no way. So yeah, no, I'm proud of that.
Are you sure you're not talking about the Bulgarian educational system, because sounds a lot familiar
Yeah, is it
Yeah.
the
to
same?
me? Almost. Maybe Angel will be closer with the description, but as far as I know, you sound very familiar to me.
Yeah, exactly. The big classes in municipality schools, it's exactly the same. It's around 28 to 30 children, and again, the teachers here in Bulgaria, from our point of view with Victor, that's why we want to help them. They are the heroes that they managed to do this. And you said something very interesting, and I really want to go into details about this, and probably you'll be able to see this in perspective for Nepal and the Netherlands. The authority you said. You said that teachers are able to make this happen even though they are in such big classes. And what can you say? How can you say more about that?
It's a very hierarchical system. So the teacher is more than you, is what is implied. So the year I think often starts with kind of a battle where the kids try to test out the teacher's authority, if he or she is strong enough, and there they develop some kind of respect for each other. And that battle, I wouldn't want that for me every year. I like to teach people that are interested in the subject and or they hate the subject, and I like to make them like the subject, but to battle for respect, every year to get your authority. I don't think that will be something for me. But that's how we put up the system. We force people to go in the class to learn how they might not learn most effectively, but how we force them to learn in a class 8 hours a day with 30 people at the same place through books. You're not allowed to stand up if you want yourself. Even have to ask if you have to go to the toilet. There are so many rules imposed there. I don't even understand how I survived that. Like, seriously, if I think about it, that I had to sit now in a class, 30 people, and try to get through an exam. My God, that's horrible, yeah?
Yeah, and how do you think that these teachers are able to go through this and to make this authority? Probably it's a different way of seeing this, because authority is for one, but respect probably is for others. So
Yeah, it's the same. I think I also coached managers. I did my second startup, and there it's the same. You get teach from as a kid that someone else will tell you if you are good enough or not, or if you did good enough or not. So if you go to school, that's your status quo, that's your baseline of understanding. So you still will look to your teacher like, hey, did I do good enough? Will I get a good grade or not? And that's the same that you see if you become an employee to your manager. You will look up to them. You hate your manager a little bit, but you also look at your manager. Hey, do I do good enough? Is my work good enough? And I think because we impose this system, it's a natural way that people behave automatically in that system, actually. So I don't often think some teachers just have more authority over them. They're better at it, but it's because we have that system that people use that authority. And I can make even compare it to another school that I visited, and that was a democratic school. And I don't know if you guys ever heard about what the democratic school is.
yeah, you can say a couple of words just to have the context.
Yeah, so democratic school is where you have a sociocratic principle, which means that the kid can create his or her own learning path, which means that the kid doesn't have to do anything, doesn't have to study, doesn't have to do any exams, only learns what the kid wants. And if it doesn't do anything for 2 years and then decides wants to become a detective, and I'm not kidding, this actually happened there, it's fine. So it's beautiful, because what happened there was that was a kid that was mainly busy with computer games, and out of nowhere when he was 15, thought like, I want to become a detective. That's what I need. And I'm too late now. So then your learning mentor and your parents and you are just going to look at, okay, what do you need to do to become a detective? You go already to university, to the masters that you need. You'll make your whole curriculum specified for you. And then you're going to study like a maniac because you know what you want to become. And it's very specified to what you need. So it's super effective. And that's super beautiful. When I gave a workshop there, like I had 45 kids out of the 90 in total in school who stayed for my workshop after school, 2 hours, voluntary, because they just wanted that. I've never seen that in a general high school.
That's very nice, and that's really a perspective that needs to be considered when you try to make the education, not the system, but the education itself better for kids, and have them really understand why they need to learn something. And when they answer the question why, they are very easily drawn into learning mode and try to gather some information and whatever they need, skills or whatever. Yeah. So that's very nice.
True, but also I think that we start to understand when a kid doesn't want to learn, because brain is not ready to learn some materials in the way that we impose on them already at that age. And every brain has its own different age. Not every kid is as ready as other kids to take in so much information at the same time at that hour as well. So of course we need to ask the kids why they want to learn and help them understand. But what often happens is that we use it as a trick to make them understand, and that just doesn't happen, or it doesn't work with intrinsic motivation. That comes from within, and that's the strongest kind of motivation. But that comes from within. So you can help them, but maybe it takes a year, 2, 3. There's people who turn 30 and then decide like, oh, now I know what I want, and then you lose it in 5 years, and then when you're 40, you understand it again. It's very natural.
I'm totally agree with you, and I'm curious in your experience, what is the best actions in such kind of situations when you find different levels of brain ages, sorry, I lost the word. And I'm totally agree, because we have a different age of our bodies as well. It doesn't matter if we are born in the same year and at the same month, and I can see that in working with a lot of people, and especially working with kids. So what do you think? Maybe we will not give the best answer now, but I'm curious, what do you think is the best actions in this kind of
I think the best action
task
that we actually can do is to look a little bit more about how statistics work, and if you want to fit in your data, let's say in a scatter plot, or you want to fit a beautiful linear regression over it, like how does it all fit in, and you go look at different variables and different way of categorization. And what we do with education is that we categorize kids on that plot in the most, in the dumbest way. We use age. That's such a such a non-valid variable often. It doesn't predict how well you're gonna do in school, age,
exactly.
And that's such a shame. There's so many more variables that we have which you can use to categorize kids and open up our box of thinking. Like, have you guys ever thought about the following, that you are not in class 5, but you are maybe in class 5 or grade 5 for Bulgarian, but you're in grade 3 for English, but that you are in grade 7 for math, and that in the end you try to tie it all together, but that there's also the flexibility to follow different courses that you have on different levels, because you're just better or worse in that. But it's just not possible still, and I think that's such a shame.
Sounds like a great revolution in the education at all.
Yeah, right.
Yes, but never thought about it. This kind of measurement and age, exactly. I totally agree with you. Age is not the only variable, but we are using only it.
Yeah, it's a shame. But again, in a democratic school, what is there very beautiful is that some kids just need some more childhood time, they say, and it's a discovery class, and normally when you're 4 you go to school, which is fine. But some kids, when they are 12, they also go to that class just for 1 year, because they missed some, again, childhood time, and they give them the time to readjust, and then they go to the class, 7 again or something. But they give the chance and opportunity and flexibility for that, and I think that's very important to again create personalized education.
Do you discuss these topics with teachers? What's the? I'm sure you do. But what's the feedback? Because I'm impressed in your ideas, and I'm sure you're discussing it. But with teachers that are in these different systems of education, sounds maybe like cosmic science. I don't know, space science.
Yeah. So I'm discussing it less than I would want it with people, because there's just, when I do discuss it with my friend, I get quite a backlash, because there's already so much stress on the system itself, and then like me, who's not, I'm not like a teacher for 30 years or something, and I go tell people like, hey, this is how you can do it better. I feel that teachers take it very personal. Like when I say the educational system needs to be improved, they take it extremely personal, and it makes it very difficult to have a very non-emotional discussion, or an emotional discussion, which is also fine, but it becomes more of a fight than it becomes a constructive one, which is a shame. Yeah, it's very difficult.
Based on what you said, that's very good. What I have seen when I try to show a new way of approach or anything, I try to see it from the best possible way. And when I present it to people that have been 30 years in the same field, let's say in the education, because currently we're talking about education, we have this backlash.
Yeah.
And I'm always trying to think, what is the downside of it before I try to present it, so I am prepared to say what might be the downside and how I can say yes, there is a downside, and there's always something compared to the other thing. So it most probably always has a downside to something. So what do you think about this approach? What is what are the downsides of it?
Understand, yeah. So the downside of a democratic school is that it also doesn't. It isn't a one size fit all. So a democratic school might be good for some kids, but maybe not good for others. I am unsure if it was also good for me. I do like some guidance. I do like some mentoring. And there, a democratic school has the belief that you can't really guide the kid. You can help and mentor him, but if the kid is stuck, it needs to find its own way. And I'm unsure if that's always the good way. So that can be a downside. So what we truly miss is different profiles of schools for different profiles of kids. And there again, I come back to that we don't have any better variable than age for kids. If we get a better profile, who a kid truly is and what kind of school would work for a kid for that moment of time, and then the ability also is, or the opportunity for a kid to change when it has a different need, because it does change. Nothing is constant. Everything changes. I think that will be super helpful. I mean, maybe even for a course, maybe like a democratic kind of system would work for maths, but you need a more hierarchical form. I mean, for Dutch or something, because you find it super difficult. I don't know. Have you guys ever heard about the modes of learning from Harvard?
Yes.
Nice. So I really like that as the learning strategies. There's these 4 quadrants that they use, and I think that can be very helpful if you apply different kinds of learning methods or ways of learning for different kind of classes, and also give the kids the ability to change in between them.
But you mentioned this in the Harvard University.
Yes.
So it works for students, or they developed it for...
No, they developed it for schools. Yeah. So they
exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will share the link as well, and you can do the course Leaders of Learning. It's very nice from Harvard X. Maybe it's for the listeners also something nice to follow.
Yeah, we are going to share the link. So after that, we can have the context, and we can put it together with this episode, so everyone can take the links and take the course. And
amazing.
Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah, great. Okay, yeah, we had a question. Actually, we still have this question, but I don't think that we need to ask it, because you already said. Our question is like, what is one of the biggest issues with the educational system currently, based from your point of view? I believe you stated it very clearly, so that's very nice. If you want to add something here, that's fine.
I think so. The biggest issue is again, not a good specialized way or personalized way for education. Too much focus on the external motivation instead of internal motivation, and I think we need to change that.
Well, if you think about it and think what we with Victor as a team can do for you.
Developing platform for tools that helps for teachers.
So what can be this one thing that you think that we can do for you?
For me specifically, yeah. So again, I'm not in front of a class every day. So for me, I wouldn't know what. I'm gonna answer this question with the difficulty that the Dutch teachers in general face. Okay, because it's a difficult discussion. So a lot of teachers want to innovate, and a lot of teachers do, and there's a lot of tooling online, a lot of new ways to teach. But often these teachers get restrictions from above. So these are the school leaders, and the school leaders get these restrictions again from the legislation of Holland itself, of how you are a quality school, yes or no. So if you do it in a different way, you don't get subsidized anymore, which makes the whole problem solving extremely difficult. But it really depends for a teacher how much freedom does a teacher have to expand something in their class, which is often already quite good. Okay, but I go back in my own words. What would help as a teacher is more tools for kids to get a little bit more insight in themselves. So their competencies, their talents, and what they can do to believe more in themselves and to understand their path a little better. I think that's something that kids could really use, and that they understand that education is just the path that you're walking. There are more paths, and once you get to believe in yourself that you are able to do whatever you have and can do in your own capabilities, you will stand a little bit more solid in your shoes. So I think that could help teachers as well. Yeah.
Great.
Perfect. Your point of view and the things I heard from you, Niels, is remind me of a story about Thomas Edison. I don't know if you guys heard of it, about his mom, that one day she received a letter from the school he attended, and she opened the letter and read it, and she started crying and said to his son that he's not gonna attend to school anymore because he's genius, and this school is too small and cannot provide the best teacher for him. Years later, his mom passed away, and he found the letter, and in the letter he read that from the school: "I'm sorry, your son is too slow and we cannot allow him to attend to school anymore, so he's suspended."
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yes, it just reminds me about being at a certain age is not the only variable. That's something I will consider a lot from our conversation, and I'm very happy meeting you, Niels. Thank you for sharing us your experience.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, both of you, also for your questions and for this discussion as well. I liked it a lot.